I don't know about you, but I've been getting more and more and more sales solicitations on LinkedIn. It's pretty annoying. It's not effective. So the question is, what is effective? How do salespeople cut through the noise and make real connections with prospects? And how can marketing help? That's the focus of today's episode. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, TREW Marketing. TREW is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit trewmarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey, everyone. I'm here with Susan Tatum. She's the managing partner and pipeline specialist at the Conversion Company. She also hosts her own podcast called Stop the Noise. And fun fact, she is a Georgia Bulldog turned California resident. Welcome
Still
to
a
the
dog.
show.
Still
Yes,
a dog.
She's a dog. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Wendy. It's great to be here.
Well, when you and I first met, it was in the midst of the college football rankings, and we had so much fun talking SEC football. So I had to get that little Bulldog thing in there.
Next year, this year, yeah, coming back around.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, today we're going to be talking about how salespeople utilize LinkedIn for prospecting and how marketing can help, and maybe how marketing in some cases doesn't help. I don't know. I'll be interested to ask you a few things about that.
All right.
So before we dive in, how long have you focused in this area and why LinkedIn?
I have focused on LinkedIn for 11 years now. And, that's a really good question because I come from a marketing background, and mostly technology, all business to business. And in 1996, which will both date me and let you know how important this was to me, I was hired as the head of global Marcom for a fiber optic company. And I was hired by the vice president of sales. And I worked inside the sales department for a year. They had a VP marketing, but he was out on the golf course doing what they used to do, back then. But it was a real awakening for me of how little what we were doing in marketing was really helping the sales team. Mm-hmm. And even though I had been more of a lead gen person than a branding person, it was just a real eye opener. And so ever since then, I have been focused on lead generation and sales and marketing, getting them together on the sales page and how marketing can be more of a factor in revenue generation and that type of thing. To actually answer your question though, we saw, back in the aughts, I guess we're calling them now, social media was coming along and everybody had to have a Facebook page, and it was kind of reminded me of the days when everybody had to have a website, but they didn't know why. They're just like, we have to have this, we're putting it up there.
Okay, it's our brochure online.
Exactly, yeah.
Pictures.
And I was working with some, at the time, manufacturing firms, industrial manufacturing firms that would go to, the head of the company would go to some Chamber of Commerce meeting or something, and come back and go, oh, we've got to have a Facebook page. And I'm like, no, why would you need to have a Facebook page? But you could tell that the communication was changing. And I just started watching it to figure out how to use it in B2B. And I saw LinkedIn start changing from being primarily a job recruiting site into a real business to business network. And got together with some folks that were LinkedIn specialists and had been focused on creating a process for generating leads. And I put that with my knowledge of the technology industry, and we came up with a process to start generating leads for business companies, which back then and now there was no advertising, there was no easy way to drive people to landing pages to sign up for. I don't even know if we were doing webinars back then. I can't remember.
Oh, yes. I can speak to at least late 90s. I was doing webinars.
You were doing
We were
webinars?
early.
Okay.
Like the audio wouldn't match the video and had weird, but it was
Still
happening.
happens. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you were advanced. So, well, this was really in 2007-ish when
Okay.
with the social media and with LinkedIn.
Sure.
I just started working with them then, and we didn't really know what we were doing, but we found out at that time it was fairly easy to get people to connect and to get conversations with them. And you could make a custom group, and then the prospects would go in the group, and then the salespeople could go in there and meet the prospects. And the things we were doing then don't work terribly well now, but we just became I became more and more interested in making a contribution in that area. And now the process that we use is channel agnostic. It doesn't have to be on LinkedIn. It's just that LinkedIn still in a lot of industries is a good way to reach people. It's more challenging, but it's still a good way to do it.
And to back you up on that, we do an annual research study of how engineers and technical buyers seek and consume information and make purchase decisions. And as part of that, we ask about social channels, and LinkedIn is really the only mainstream social channel that engineers will be willing to use, maybe sometimes begrudgingly compared to technical associations and things like that, but they're definitely still there. So I think you're onto something. If it had to be a platform, LinkedIn's at the top.
Yeah. And it's that's interesting because there's a school of thought that I ran across that on LinkedIn now, there's two groups of people. One are the people that are in the recruiting part, and they're either looking for a job or looking to hire somebody. And the other group is on LinkedIn to sell something.
And those are it? Those are the two?
Yeah. So what that means is people are not necessarily going to LinkedIn to buy something like you might on Facebook.
Right.
But that's encouraging to hear what you're saying, that the engineers are going there to get their questions answered, perhaps, and still see it as being a trusted channel, place for communication.
We did actually, Susan, we asked that question in our, I believe it was the 2020 research. We didn't do it in 2021. And, but we said, what are you seeking when you go to this social channel? And one of the things was industry trends. And so of course it was networking, job seeking, but industry trends. So it wasn't, to go spec a part or something like that.
Exactly. Which comes back around to why are we seeing so much product oriented stuff posted there when that's not what people are looking for. And the industry trends thing, I think, that is important to one of the points that I would make about how marketing can better help sales. But maybe we should start with how sales is using or should be using LinkedIn for any marketers that aren't.
Would love to hear that. And kind of to preface that, even, I feel like in maybe it's because my title has changed a few times in the past 3 years, but it seems like the past 3 years have gotten ridiculous when it comes to sales solicitations. And I'm guessing automation is somewhat to blame for this, but maybe tell me, what's the state of affairs thing and why has it gotten so annoying?
Automation.
Yeah. Okay.
I would definitely put it automation and bad advice. Consultants, LinkedIn consultants that don't know what they're doing. And, they're selling a process. These people have been around forever. They're good at selling you on doing something, but they weren't good at doing that themselves. And they don't really know what works and what doesn't work. The thing with automation, and this works on the marketing side too, I think, is that technology has made it so easy and cheap for us to just blast out a bunch of stuff, because it doesn't cost you any more to send something to 1,000 people or to aim at 1,000 people than it does to aim at 100. And we get in our minds about, I've got to have these high numbers. And that when you do that, you by definition become more generic because you can't focus. And so we end up with a lot of crap and a lot of spam. And and I think we can thank the software companies for convincing people that automatically sending out 1,000 or hundreds of connection requests in your sleep is a good thing. And it's not helping. It's not helping the buyers. It's not helping the sellers. It's not helping the marketers. So and you penned it, Wendy, because I would say too is about 3 years ago that LinkedIn started getting really noisy. And a lot of that, yes, it's the automation. Yes, it is salespeople discovering it as a channel, and again, just not approaching it properly. But COVID really pushed it because you had all of these people that had been face-to-face selling. Now this is our only option. And they had to do it quickly. There's a lot of panic. And so when you're starting something new, you kind of take the easiest path.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately just adds a lot of noise and makes my job a whole lot more difficult.
Yeah, I wondered if there was another COVID spike. It would be interesting to see those charts.
There's a spike. I did see some LinkedIn. Well, now that LinkedIn is part of Microsoft, it gets like this much in their reporting. So you don't get the details that you used to get, but there has been an enormous increase in the amount of advertising on LinkedIn. And I see that in my news feed. It's like ad after a sponsored post after sponsored post after sponsored post. And it filtered in with maybe something that I really want to read. And then, people are, the numbers, they're sort of cagey in that they say we've got 700 million members or whatever they say they have now. Well, we know that there's a lot of people that have profiles that don't know they have profiles. They're not necessarily active people, but it is more active and it is a good place to be. It's just more challenging in breaking through all of that noise right now.
All right. Well, then I think it's time for you to lay it on us. What works? What should people be doing?
Well, so and the thing that I find it helpful to think of marketing as one-to-many and sales as one-to-one.
Agreed.
And so, and that holds true on LinkedIn as well. So you've got the marketing folks that are creating awareness. They're trying to reach a lot of people. They're not trying to have a conversation like this, whereas that's what your salesperson ultimately wants to have. If you're selling a relationship-based something, if it's transactional and you're just going to go to a catalog on the website and order your parts, that's a different thing. But I really want to stress the importance of marketing because it makes it possible for the sale. It makes it so much easier to get that sale done because of the familiarity and the credibility that's being built there. I don't know if you've ever known a salesperson that worked for a known company and then they go to work for a startup or something and they're like, I used to be able to get phone calls. People used to want to talk to me.
Oh yeah.
And they need marketing to help them do that.
Where is marketing? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I heard it. I was talking to a VP of sales and marketing recently, and he described how they're penetrating a new market. And he said, our sales guys have their machetes out and they're clearing the path. And I said, wow, wouldn't it be great if marketing was clearing that path with the machete and the salesperson's time was better spent, in more productive ways. So
that's absolutely true. Yeah. And it's got to be a team, method. But so what the salespeople are doing is, or should be doing, is identifying who their ideal prospects are. Like, who do they really want to talk to? And keeping that, I advocate keeping that to a manageable number. So if you spend the time up front, really understanding who is going to make an ideal customer or client for you, then you don't waste your time talking to people that are never going to be good or going to waste your time. Mm-hmm. So it's a much more efficient that way, even though the automation people would have you believe that automating the outreach is more efficient. On the back end of that, besides the people that you inadvertently piss off because you spam them, you're also going to be talking to a lot of people that you just don't need to be spending your time. You're not doing each other any good at all. So figuring out who they want to talk to, and that's a place that marketing can really contribute, is who are these people? Really, who are these people as people? It starts with a persona, but personas are still kind of the average across. So if you're going to be talking one to many, you've got to hit the average. You're going to talk one to one. I want to know who you are. But the pain points of the persona, all of that information is important for a salesperson to understand, because it informs the conversation that they might want to have. Because we know that, and this goes back to my marketing days, what is it like? Only 20% of people are ready to talk to a salesperson when they first touch a brand or go to your website or download something or whatever. And the same thing is true with outreach. Most people don't want to talk about the product right away. No. But salespeople, because we all like to talk about ourselves, tend to reach out with, hey, let's connect. We're connected. Give me 20 minutes to show you,
let me tell you about our solution.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And unless you happen to hit somebody whose hair is on fire, that is not going to happen. It just really doesn't work. And so what the salespeople need, even though many of them don't know that they need it, is a way to get to those folks and start a conversation that doesn't have to do with the product. It can have to do with the problems you're solving. And that, again, is where marketing comes in and is able to create the content that is helpful in that area of talking about those problems, and just hold the product stuff till later, sales. I think most companies have product information, right? I think that's where they start. So I think that where marketing can really be heroes, and where salespeople can really cut through this noise, is to provide value in a different way.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned content. So would that be in the form of a piece of content that speaks to a pain point? So not a product brochure, obviously, but something that's more, informational.
It is that, and it's also, I think, so with LinkedIn in particular, it is, it's the personal profile. People go to LinkedIn to connect with other people more than they go to connect with brands. So the company page is important. It's great for recruiting. It's where you can put all your product information and that sort of stuff. But the personal brands have always, and as far as I can see, will always get more engagement than the company pages do. And you look at your subject matter experts. Look at the people in your company that make your company different, and craft their profiles to emphasize that, and then have them posting information about that. Here, talk about insights. That's the place the insights go, is where your executives and your experts are, they're talking about, this is what I see. And that will, and an expert could be another engineer that's on there talking, as well. So that's one. When I say content, I'm meaning content, yes, in articles, also in what gets posted as what they used to call a status update, the post on the profiles. And this is another place, Wendy, that automation gets in the way. And that is, it's the auto posting of blog articles is so easy. And the tendency to look at LinkedIn as just another social media thing. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to post to Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and whatever.
It's so easy to do, Susan.
Exactly. It's easy to do, but it's not effective.
Yeah.
It just contributes to the noise. So what my recommendation for marketing people would be to pick the most influential people in your company and focus really on crafting their presence on LinkedIn. It's okay to post your blog articles, but do it with a point of view that's added there. Why are you posting that blog article? Why should somebody read that? And then also third-party content. So like your study or the industry analysts or these other people, if it's all me, mm-hmm. or us, that gets really boring. And so and a thought leader, and buzzword alert, but that's you're bringing in what other people are seeing. And I think that's the value that it sounds like your engineers are looking for nowadays.
Yeah,
And
I
the
agree.
salespeople can be using that as well. I do. So one thing that, I think that we have we discovered a different way of approaching getting conversations with these ideal prospects, whether they be potential clients, partners, investors, whatever. And I came to realize that there's 3 different kinds of conversations that you have with prospects. One is where the prospect talks about themselves. One is where you talk about the prospect and provide value. And the third is where you can talk about your products and services. But you have to earn the right to talk about that last conversation. That conversation is where most salespeople go. So by not going to that conversation first, you get a better opportunity to talk to folks.
You can build trust, you can make connections. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, and this is a perfect example here. What we found with getting that first conversation where you let the prospect talk about themselves is creating an opportunity for them to contribute their expertise in the name of helping other people. So it might be, I have a podcast, be a guest. I'm writing a book. Give me some, it's an ego thing too. God, with your experience, it would be perfect to have in this book. Research papers, building communities. And I think what marketing could do for the salespeople is create these opportunities where they could say, my company is doing research on blah, blah, blah. And it would be really helpful, if I could get like 15 minutes with you to get your input on this, then you have a conversation that's not, it's not salesy. It's you and me helping somebody else. It's not like, all right, when's she going to pitch me on something?
Yeah. Beautiful.
So I think that's a good thing. Tell me if we're running out of time, because I can talk about this stuff forever.
No, I'm getting a lot of value out of hearing this. I'm not stopping you. You keep going.
I think that one other thing that I would caution marketers with is it's really easy to get caught up in vanity metrics when you're on any kind of social media, but LinkedIn is no different. When if you're focused on views and comments and likes and shares and that kind of thing, you'll appreciate this. We refer to that as a pep rally.
Hey, you're talking to someone who was once the mascot, so I know a lot about pep rallies. I was a tiger.
It's an analogy that doesn't work outside the United States, but but it's important. It's, you got the cheerleaders, you got the mascots, you got all this stuff. Everybody's getting excited and they're behind the program, but it doesn't win the game. You've got to you got to get the players on the field ultimately. And these vanity metrics, it's so easy for marketing to use these. I've done this before myself, because it makes whoever you're reporting to feel good. It's like, oh my God, we've gone up and this kind of stuff. But the reality is views. Do you know what views mean on LinkedIn?
I believe it means that you watch, read or hover over something for a duration of time.
It means that the post got loaded into a news feed that you scrolled by, at least. So you go to your news feed, and if you go down a couple of pages, you have suddenly viewed 30 to 40 posts.
But does there isn't some time element to it, like at least 3 seconds or?
There is, and this is where I want to mention Andy Foote, Foote. If anybody wants the details of how the LinkedIn algorithm and that sort of stuff works, Andy's really got his finger on the pulse. So go look at that. There is a thing called, it's not lag time, dwell time.
Dwell time, yes.
And that factors into how much LinkedIn is going to continue to show the post. So if it has a good lag time, and that's why you see people doing slide presentations in their posts now, because it takes a few more seconds or whatever to look through 6 or 9 slides. It's, it's gaming, and it can be fun, but It's not going to drive a predictable, repeatable amount of prospects to want to have conversations with your salespeople. The value of looking at what are people commenting on. And if you go and you look at that stuff and you look at who's commenting, you'll find a lot of consultants and salespeople and marketing people. And if you find some engineers, reach out to them.
There you go. You
definitely
you hit gold. You hit pay dirt.
Yeah, and get them in a conversation. That's a great way to start a conversation with them. Is hey, I saw you commented on this, and that's perfect LinkedIn doing it that way. You can also tell what topics might be of interest if it's getting more of the views or likes or whatever. I just caution away spending too much time with that. I would spend more time in making sure that, again, just going back to your executives, your subject matter experts are posting the right things, and help your salespeople look good on LinkedIn too. I mean, there's still salespeople out there.
Just about to ask you about that, because I think that you're right. Like, a marketer can only handle so many spokespeople, right? Because as you said, you need to have a point of view. It's not, here's this blog post, but so what? So what does that executive think about that? And it could be a technical spokesperson, it could be an executive, whatever. But then you have the rest of the sales team. And so while you can't necessarily help manage those accounts and babysit those people, you're modeling behavior of having a point of view, of becoming a trusted resource that I would think those salespeople could mimic in their own personal ways to work on their personal brands.
I could not have said it better.
Okay.
That's perfect.
So it is a time investment, but it seems like marketing could educate with best practices and examples to the sales force and help them strike whatever balance makes sense and is productive for them, perhaps.
Yeah, and give them frameworks to do their profiles around, or maybe run a workshop and help them do it. It's really hard. It's hard for us to write about ourselves. We like to talk about ourselves, but it's hard for us to write about ourselves sometimes. And I think if you just sort of give them some guidelines on it, that can be really helpful. Sorry, my lighting's doing weird things. It's surprising how many salespeople will still have profiles that say things like, "I crushed quota 4 quarters in a row."
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And you want to be, so salespeople, I think, need to think of themselves as expert problem solvers for their customers.
Advisors, technical advisor, whatever it is. Yes.
And then do the profile from that point of view. It is really extremely helpful. And then what they're posting is they can then repost what you've got your executives saying and your subject matter experts saying, and your opportunities that hopefully you'll develop for them to get their prospects involved in co-creating content. Yeah, that's really what it is.
I like it. Great advice. So LinkedIn, it seems like it is obviously spending more and more money on their platform as it grows, changing things. You mentioned algorithm earlier. Are there new changes or trends or features that you're watching pretty closely?
Well, there is a new, they have product pages. If you're familiar with the old showcase pages, I don't know if they're still around on the company. These go off the company pages. And this is a better round of that, where you can actually create these product pages in your company page and get reviews in there.
Okay.
And there are people that know a lot more about that than I do. And what I'll do is send you maybe a link to some of them that you could put in the show notes so they could go and check that out. Because I'm not a tactical person on this. I'm more about the strategy. But there are the company page, the project pages. There is a service marketplace that they're coming up with, I think, for companies that are more in the consulting area. And if that's excuse me, part of your offering, you could be in the service there too, but you can't put your service on a product page. They're not allowing that. They keep saying that they're supporting groups and they haven't gotten rid of them, but the reality is, we don't see much value in that right now. We We did have an instance back, and it started at US Thanksgiving, where LinkedIn went through and globally did a massive restriction on accounts that they thought were using automation, or that they saw evidence what they were using automated app, or that they were allowing other people to access and manage their accounts. And this is one that I think has to change, because
marketers pay attention to this one.
Yeah, it's just not realistic for LinkedIn to expect an executive or, directors or, anybody that's got other things to worry about to be managing their own LinkedIn account. It's, their assistants are there to help them do that kind of stuff. But yet I know people that they just have their assistants using their accounts, and their accounts got restricted. And then you have to go and provide government approved ID that it's actually you, and they'll open your account up. But if you're using an automated app, and I don't know if we really defined what that is, but it's a third-party application. A lot of them are Chrome plugins.
Okay.
It logs onto your LinkedIn account, and it will send these connection invitations, and then also automate a messaging sequence for you. It's spam. It's awful. If you can't tell, anti-doing this, but it's also against the user agreement, and they can and they will shut your account down if you do that too much. So anybody that is using that, because it sounds easy and it sounds efficient, and you may be using a third-party company to manage and help you with your LinkedIn program, and they may be using it and you don't even know it. It's a risky thing to do. So you want to be much more careful in how you handle it. And if there are people that want to know more about how we're doing that, then I'm happy to just have them contact me, and we'll tell you what's working now with that.
Well, that's a great segue into how can people connect with you, Susan?
Well, I am on LinkedIn as Susan Tatum, and I'm at the Conversion Company. So my email is susan@theconversioncompany.com. And I am always happy to talk about how to reduce the noise, how to be more successful on LinkedIn, how to be a human about it, and to establish some really good relationships. So feel free to contact me.
And go dogs.
And go dogs. And a little A&M in there too.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Susan. You were a wealth of information. I learned so much during this interview, so I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Wendy. You take care.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit TREWmarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.